our minds. We're going to do new. Do something else. Do more. Do the impossible. Do better. Do good. Do big. Do small. Do it wrong. Do it again. Do it ourselves. Do it together. Do what no one else has done. Do what will become big. Do the same. Do different. Do everything. Do something. Do new. We've made
All right, hello and welcome to today's webinar from Linköping University. And today we'll be talking about our master program in ethnic and migration studies. My name is Emily. I will be your moderator today. And before I introduce today's participants, I'd like to mention that we will be recording the first part of this webinar, which is a discussion about 25-30 minutes, depending on how it goes. And you will be able to watch this recording on our website and how many times you'd like if you need some more information. And for everybody watching live, though, you will have the opportunity afterwards to ask us some questions, or our participants some questions. Important note, though, please ask these questions in the question section on the website, because otherwise it gets a bit confusing with the chat. So please write it in the question part. And also, please feel free to let us know how you're feeling about all of this with some reactions, with some emojis, so we can engage with you guys. Yes, and with that being said, let's get started. Welcome to my guests today. We have two students and a professor from the program present. Welcome. I'd like you to introduce yourselves. I think that's always the best option. So maybe we start with Claudia.
Thanks very much for the introduction and welcome everyone to the webinar. My name is Claudia Tazraika. I'm Professor of Ethnic and Migration Studies here at Linköping University, and I'm also the Program Director for this Master Program in Ethnic and Migration Studies. So really nice to be here with you, and also I'll hand over to the two EMS students that we have in the virtual room today. I think we're really lucky to have them here for you to ask questions and to hear the impressions. So yeah, thank you.
All right, Camila.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Claudia. I'm Camilla. I'm a second year student of the master program Ethnic and Migration Studies.
All right. Nice to meet you. And last but of course not least, Petronella.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Petronella, or Nelly, whichever you prefer. I'm a second year student of the program as well. Very happy to be here and answer any questions.
Nice. All right. Thank you, guys. I think we just dig right in, and let's start off with, first of, what exactly is this program? What is the aim of this program? What can potential students expect? I mean, maybe Claudia, you want to give some input?
Sure, Emily. So this master program, it's been in existence now. This is the 7th year, and it's been a very successful program at LIU, and it's also growing in demand and in student numbers. It's a very particular kind of program in terms of focusing on ethnic and migration studies. So we do focus on migration as a phenomena and migration policies and what happens within particular nation states. But this program, I think the departure from this particular program compared to other masters that focus on migration as a phenomena, and also ethnicity and race and intersectional issues that relate to migration, is that this program is very interdisciplinary, and it focuses, comes from a place that we call critical migration studies. And so you see that when you enter the program, and perhaps it's also the current students that can give you more of a perspective, you start to see what we mean by critical migration studies very much from the people that teach you. So we are all active researchers, as I am also, and our approaches to migration as a phenomenon is usually also from a critical approach. And that means that we're not just looking at phenomena, so whether it's refugee movements or whether it's the settlement and integration of various categories of migrants, skilled migrants, labour migrants, family reunions, so different categories into particular nation states. It's not just the superficial phenomena we're interested in, it's also causal links. So looking at history, looking at other processes such as political economy, the nature of capitalism, and these relationships that have a bearing on not just how a migrant fares, but also how the society in general changes, adapts, and how cultures are not fixed, but are malleable through the processes of new people coming, of cultural exchange, and so on. So that's what I would say in an introduction to what's particular about the EMS program. And it means that our students, towards the end, when they're writing a thesis, have great diversity in what they can actually study and what they can focus on. So I think that's a great strength of this program.
Yeah, I gotta say, it already sounds really impressive, really interesting. Maybe Camila and Petronella can give us a small insight into why you guys chose this program, what made you apply and actually start studying here.
Yeah, so for me, I come from a minority region in the Netherlands, the Frisians. So I was already interested in ethnicity and difference, kind of looking at how are categories in society created, and why would I be different from someone else, etc. And so I started studying minorities and multilingualism, and that rolled into migration studies, etc. But I think linking onto what Claudia was telling about our program, I think what our program does really well, and why I decided to choose this program rather than any of the other migration focused masters that are available in Europe. There's not so many, but this one in particular, I think, was very nice in that it combined a lot of different perspectives, including the ethnicity angle and the kind of more sociological angle, because the themes that we study, migration and ethnicity, are so complex that I think it's so nice that we have a health and politics angle. We have a course on economics, we have a course on history. So I think that was one of the reasons for me.
If I can add something for what it concerns me, I come from a more institutional background. I studied international relations and European institutions in my bachelor's. So what I felt after my bachelor, it was that I wasn't really in touch with what was important for me, that was society issues and so I felt like on an institutional level, I couldn't really understand and feel what it was the real society issues and what it was needed to work on. So I believe this program satisfied my willingness to get a more detailed and deep insight on everything about society and people in general that I was lacking in a more institutional kind of program. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. That was also a very different backgrounds and a very interesting aspects of the program we hear again. Now that we've spoken a bit about what in general is being taught, I think it would be nice to look at a bit more how the program is structured. So maybe if Claudia, you want to give us an oversight of the 2 years that it would take?
Sure, Emily, sure. So this, the first slide shows you the first year of the program. And I think what I can also say is that the program is, it's quite a busy program. So you are in the 2 years, you do have quite a steady workload, and that's important. Regular reading, but also other interactions, particularly in the second year. But let me just talk to that. So semester 1, you start with a course that looks at historical perspectives on ethnicity and migration. So I think that's very important, that we see migration not as just a contemporary phenomena in the 21st century or even in the post-World War II period, but rather see it as a continuum to the past. And so starting from that historical perspective is quite important for us. And then you can see that you quite quickly, in a course called The World Systems in the Post-Colonial Era, and then the course that follows Class, Labour, Migration and Globalisation, we get straight into the various phenomena, but also the different concepts and the different writers that have given us as migration scholars and practitioners. And of course, many of you will also want to work in maybe public policy or in the media, not necessarily directly in research, gives you the capacities not only to have particular skills, but to have this conceptual armour. In other words, that you can problematize and think about why a particular phenomena, why, let's say, refugee movements comes to be called a crisis in Europe. So not just describe it, but really understand it and use particular concepts to be able to go deeper than the superficial description that a journalist, for example, in an article might make. So, and then towards the end of that first semester, you go through a course on methodology. So you start thinking about what are the different types of projects that migration scholars utilise, how do they frame them, what methodologies do they use, and we also start looking at this concept of intersectionality, so that something like ethnicity, the things that migrants face, also intersect with other points of difference between who we are as human beings, such as gender, sexuality, class position, that those things all relate to each other. And you can then see in semester 2, those 2 courses continue over the winter into the spring. And then you start, again, a very interesting course that takes a very different kind of perspective called Race, Ethnicity, Migration in Culture and Arts. And there you have an opportunity to begin looking at phenomena such as migration, but also ethnicity, race and racialization through the lens of art and artistic production. So again, it's a very different kind of frame, not just traditional social science research, and sociology is the foundation of what we do, but here you're looking at it through the prism of visual production. And here the students are taken, there's a field trip we do towards the end of that course to Stockholm, where we're visiting various art institutions, and some of those are multicultural art institutions, and you're meeting with some of the art producers, the curators, and also the researchers. So it's a whole day trip that's usually very productive. And then you do a course that focuses more on the European Union and asylum policy. So specialised, but again, it gives you a different kind of specialisation. And then you do a course called Critical Cases. And again, the content there, perhaps Nelly and Camilla can tell you more about that later, but the content in that particular course is shaped by the students. And towards the end of that course, you produce a journal. So you all start to write shorter pieces, and it's produced into a printed publication. And this, you know, that's a nice thing to have to produce, but also the skill of working together and writing together as a student group. Emily, can I have the next slide then? We'll have a look at year 2. So then you see your second year, and this is where you have a lot more choice in your second year to really start to direct your own trajectory and starting to steer yourself into what work you want to do, you have 2 core courses, Migration, Health and Biopolitics, and then Inclusion, Citizenship and Exclusion. So again, you're focusing on migration, but from very particular perspectives. So health is an important field to look at in relation to migration, as is citizenship and belonging. And the rest of that course is made up with electives. But the thing to also remember is that LIU has agreements with many other universities around the world and across Europe. And a number of students choose to do a study abroad semester in semester 3. And we also have an Erasmus exchange possibility where students can also do a double degree. So you are then away for your entire second year at another institution, which a lot of students find appealing. And then the high point, really, I think, for me at least, the high point is the production of the thesis. So towards the end of your 2 years, you then are the author of your own thesis, focused on some aspect of migration studies. But I must say, students in the EMS program produce the most wonderful and diverse theses at the end of the 2 years. And that's, as a teacher and as a professor, that's always very rewarding to see that end point. So that's the structure. Camilla and Nelly, would you like to comment on any of that and your experiences?
Yeah, I'd really like to know what your favorite courses were as well.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have a favorite course per se, because I think a lot of courses are quite different in their content, etc. I do really think I like the culture and arts course because it kind of steps out of a kind of an academic view of a very much a public discourse view, and kind of a lot more into ways of expression and how identities are mediated through this. So I really like that, and also the way this course was assessed was through reflections on through people. The students had to write a long report on how they reflected onto the course material, and I really liked the way we could deal with that. But then again, also the health course, the health and biopolitics course, I think was really interesting, particularly because it dealt with a lot of very relevant issues in migration policies these days. So I think it's the mix that makes it nice, personally.
Yes, I absolutely agree with what Nelly said right now. It's the mix that is special, in my opinion, too. It gives this program as a whole gives a really variegated, gives really variegated perspectives on every aspect that can be related to migration in general. But also these courses help to really widen your your perspective on many fields that sometimes it's hard to imagine. I honestly thought when I started to have an open mind, now looking back, I'm like, okay, maybe I was a little bit limited, and it's really nice because, as I said, every course it's built in a way that it doesn't leave behind anything, but every perspective it's really well investigated, and it's really it's perfect to combine a general knowledge on the topic. And my favorite, I think it was intersectionality. The intersectionality course was, well, it's in my heart, honestly.
Very nice. Okay, so you two mentioned a lot about the contents of the courses. What would you say would a usual week or typical week for you look like, with like the workload that you have, what kind of work it is, what would you say is a usual one for you guys? I think maybe Camilla, you want to start?
Yes, what is different from my background in my bachelor degree. I did my bachelor degree in Italy, and the structure there was like a lot of courses together in the first semester, and then a lot of courses together in the second semester, and then 1 month for semester for exams. What I find also nice of this program is that we take one course at a time. There was only once last year when we had 2 courses in the same month, but usually we have one course at a time, and it's really nice to focus on the subject and to do some research on the subject. So that month is dedicated to a singular subject. And then at the end of the month, we have to submit a paper on a topic related to the course that we are doing. This week is actually a paper week for us, for me and Nelly, for inclusion, exclusion, and citizenship course. And yeah, so since we have one course at a time, the schedule every week is not very tight. So we have from 2 to 3 or 4 seminars per week. It really depends from course to course. And to be honest, we have a lot of time where we are not in class, but it's very much needed for all the readings we need to do in order to strengthen our knowledge and to be prepared to write the final paper.
Yeah, exactly. What Camilla said, lots of reading and writing. It's the course of the program is really kind of focused on you studying individually a lot. And obviously we work together with our classmates and we discuss things as well. But in the end, I think the course really turns into something that you make of it. As a student, you interact with the material, and then all the seminars and the lectures will become a lot more interesting. And I think that is definitely a strength. Also, what Camilla said, I was also not used to the one course at a time formats before I came here. It definitely has its pros, I think, with being able to focus on one thing at a time, especially because you really want to get deeply into these matters. But I think it depends a little bit on how you work as well, because this does mean that you have less time kind of to think of what you want to do your paper on, for instance. So it can take some getting used to throughout the process, I think, for me. But you get used to that a lot, and then you can focus a lot more on your reading and your writing and your seminars. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for this. Like, it sounds amazing, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people watching right now are also thinking, I really want to apply. So I think that's what we should talk about next. So first up, what are the requirements to get in? Because we've heard that Nelly and Camilla, you have different backgrounds, but what are some of the requirements to get into the program, and what kind of student would benefit the most from this program? Maybe Claudia, you want to go first?
Sure. Look, it's a very hard question to answer specifically. I think our student body in the EMS program is very diverse, both in terms of geographic and ethnic backgrounds, as well as the previous specialisation, so what discipline, what previous programs, undergraduate programs whose students come from. And I think that's quite deliberate, is that we have chosen over time to try and make we run a program called the Global Classroom, where we work in a very sort of deliberate, conscious way to make the classroom as diverse as possible, meaning that we seek to recruit students from all parts of the world and do our best to support them in that, as well as, of course, students from throughout Europe and local Swedish students. So I think we do have a very nice mix in the classroom, and I think that is a great advantage to everyone, actually, to hear not just from the professors, but also that the students, you know, in discussion, come from so many different backgrounds, and therefore, you know, approaches to migration, approaches to all these different topics, of course, are also diverse. And I think that's a big positive for everyone in the classroom. And I think we as teachers also benefit from that diversity. It is competitive to get into the program, so the program has more and more applications each year. And so, you know, there's a range of things that's taken into account. Of course, your previous education or attainment and so on does matter, but there's a range of factors that we take into account in making offers to students.
Yeah, sounds like a very fun environment to study in, to be honest. Maybe Nelly and Camila, you can give us some input on how your application went. I know it's been a while, probably you're in your second year already, but what were some documents, for example, or things that you remember that needed to be handed in?
Yeah, so I think the most important one is definitely the letter of intent, where basically you kind of you kind of write why you want to study this program and what you could offer for this program and what this program offers you. And then obviously you have your CV, you have your requirement of meeting the English standards, etc. But I think the letter of intent is a really nice way. You kind of combine all the documents that you have into one letter where you kind of reflect on what you have done so far and where you want to go to. So yeah, I remember that one the most vividly. Don't know if Camilla can add to that.
I think you said most of the things that had to be said, but yeah, I would say the letter of intent is the most important, and it's also yeah, your non-in-person presentation to the program and to will need to evaluate your application. So it's really important to stress why you are interested in this.
Yeah, great. That's good to know. And I believe you can find all of this information again on your program website, on the requirements and where to apply and everything. Maybe one question again for the two students. So you guys chose, you're not from Sweden, you guys chose to come here and do this program. So what has student life been like? And what is maybe your favorite part about studying at Linköping University?
Okay, maybe I can go first on this one. I honestly never been to Sweden before coming last September 2021 for starting this program. So I didn't really know what to expect, honestly. And but one thing that surprised me a lot was the student life, especially the one that there is at Linköping University. I wasn't expecting that. It kind of reminded me in a way the US. I don't know why, but in a way there are some traditions and that kind of but in a complete Swedish way that is interesting. Just an example. Every student has these overalls differentiated by color per program, And so you can put your name on, and the patches from the parties you've been in, your program patch, any patch you can find, honestly. And I have mine here, and I have my initiation on Saturday, and I think it's a really nice aspect of the student life here, because the overall tradition is not really spread anymore in Sweden, but Linköping University has it still, and I think it's a very nice aspect, and it's fun for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think definitely what Kami says is so true. Sweden has great traditions. I think one thing that a lot of you might be wondering or thinking about is that this program is located on campus Norrköping, not on campus Linköping. So a lot of student events are going on indeed on campus Linköping. Linköping is the bigger city with the more students. For instance, the International Students Organization Association is also located there. But Norrköping has quite an active student life as well. You do have these traditions in Norrköping as well. And for instance, you can be part of ESN network, ISA network, the International Students Association, from Norrköping as well. And there's a lot of activities going on here as well. And apart from that, Norrköping itself also is quite a lively city. And as a city, I think it's quite beautiful. It has quite some events going on, like lights festivals, for instance, music festivals. So I think that is also a really nice addition to your life next to the university.
Thank you so much for that. It sounds really nice to study. And I would just like to mention on the application, so like I said, I'm guessing a lot of students are now thinking, oh, I really want to experience this myself and be part of this program. If you apply this year, you will not need a letter of intent, even though Nelly and Camila still had to write one. And I know poured their heart out and made it into the program, but this year you will not have to write one. But instead, make sure that you update all the other documents that are required. For example, your English certification and all of your grades. And that is enough to get into the program then, hopefully for you guys. I would like to finish off this discussion part with a question, like a general question of like, what useful tips do you have, also from you, Claudia? Like, what would be something you recommend for potential applicants to do or to remember while applying? The floor is yours, you guys.
Well, look, if I can just quickly say, and perhaps it's really interesting for the people on the Zoom to hear, particularly from Camilla and Nelly, but perhaps I can just say, I think you're doing the right thing by joining this, for example, and trying to inform yourself as much as possible about what the program offers and what's distinct about the program, just to make sure that it fits with what you want. And, you know, for example, I can see there's a few questions there in the chat about what sort of jobs people have afterwards. And, you know, that's very diverse. People that graduate from the EMS program, some of them do become researchers, so go on to do a PhD and have a research career, but many are working in other sectors. So, you know, we keep in touch with our alumni and know where our alumni usually are. They also keep in touch with us very much. And people are working in various sectors. So some people are working in the government sector, either in Sweden, or some people return to their home country and work in government sectors there. Many work in different non-governmental agencies and human rights organizations. So I know that there are some recent graduates and alumni that are working, for instance, in the Mediterranean, on some of the independent vessels that are rescuing migrants. So, and other people are working in media and sort of advice roles to various stakeholders. So it's very diverse. It's certainly not just in research careers, but certainly some people choose a research career. So I would just say inform yourself as much as possible. There is information on the EMS site as well, pointing to alumni and what people are doing. So I think that's, you're doing the right thing by being here and listening and also asking questions to make sure that the program is a good match for you. Camilla and Nellie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, thinking really about the application process itself, I would say don't get overwhelmed with all the bureaucratic steps you have to go through. Just take it one by one, applying, but also when you're thinking about moving to Sweden, getting the personal number, coming here, especially if you come from outside of the EU and you have to get a visa, etc. Take things step by step. Also, if you're considering coming to Sweden, living here, look at the sites for the housing and register so you can start queuing, and it will be easy to get housing that way. Yeah, and indeed, inform yourself, think about what you want to be doing, and reflect on what you have to offer and can learn from this experience.
Yes, what I can just briefly add, I think Claudia and Nelly already said a lot about this, but don't be scared. And while doing your application, I wasn't a very brilliant student in my bachelor degree because I didn't like that so much. And but anyway, I don't know, EMS. Saw something in my application, and here I am 1.5 years later. So yeah.
All right, great. Thank you very much for all of this information and all the input and the tips. This is where we will now stop the recording. Thank you guys again for joining and for answering all of my questions. And for everybody watching the recording, thank you. And please remember to follow us on social media. So we have our Instagram account, Linköping.University, and on Facebook as well. And also check out our student blogs. You can find some more information on student life. And we also have a podcast available on streaming platforms called Fika with Us. And you can find some more information there as well. All right, for everybody watching live, though, we will now have a look at all your questions. I see that a lot of you have already put some in. Please, you can always continue to ask new questions. Yeah, maybe I'm looking for one I saw earlier. Okay, so again, about admission, do you have articulate admission conditions and where can we find them? Maybe Claudia, you can say something to this. I'm guessing they're again looking for the requirements set by the program.
Yes, the best thing is to look at the program, and there is a link there to the admission process. So you should be able to just follow the links from the EMS program for the admission conditions. But if you have any further questions, the international office deals directly with the admission process. So that's, Emily, I'm not sure if you share those links through this process.
Yes, they have been shared, I believe.
Great.
Okay, pop up. And yeah, otherwise on the program site, I think you can find all of this information. All right. There are a few questions about costs and also about grants and tuition fees. Maybe we can have a quick talk about that. I think maybe Claudia, you're the right person to ask here again.
Yeah. So in general, you can follow the specificities. It depends on your nationality and your passport status as to what the tuition fees are. If you're particularly if you're from outside European Union, a non-Schengen country, you will pay international fees. But the specificities of that you need to follow up individually because it depends on all those things. But the international office can give you all those guides. There are a range of scholarships that are available for all students, so not dependent on your passport, your nationality. A range of scholarships that are available for students in the program. And usually EMS students are successful in getting some of those scholarships that are offered across the faculty. So that, yeah, you can have that kind of help. And I think in terms of money, there was also a question about study abroad.
Yeah.
And again, with the costs there, in your first semester, we hold an information seminar. So the people who are currently in first year, who started at the beginning of September, they're just going through that at the moment, where there's a lot of information given about semester 3. So that's, all the opportunities to study abroad, to start double degree, to do your internships. All of that information is given in your first semester. And that includes you making those decisions about whether you can afford it or not, because of course the costs of you going overseas do have to be borne by you, so that LEU doesn't pay for those costs. So they're all things that you would then need to factor in to your decision making.
All right. Yes. Maybe the next question we can mix up again a bit, but here's one question about the possibility of studying part-time, so doing the master in 3 years instead of 2, because of a health reason. Is that an option? And what has to be, or who has to be contacted for something like that?
So maybe Emily, I'll answer that briefly. So yes, there are ways in which you can finish the program more slowly. Usually we encourage students, if it's possible, to continue the program in full-time mode. But yes, there are avenues, and we introduce you to that right at the beginning of the program. So there is a study counsellor who's an independent person that's available for students to talk to about any issues that arise, personal issues, discrimination issues, health issues. And that person is also the person that can guide students if they need to think about taking the program more slowly, perhaps taking leave from the program and then coming back. So all those things are possible. It's a case-by-case basis, but our intent is very much to support the individual students and individual needs that students have.
Yes, all right. Thank you for that. I'm just looking through. Yeah, so I know that Camila and Petronella, you are in your 3rd semester right now, correct? Okay, so there's a question on, is there any help on finding internships, and if it's easy to find? I'm not sure if either of you actually chose to do an internship, or maybe some of your classmates did and you have some input on that.
Yes, I was thinking about doing an internship for this semester. Then for various reasons, I had to choose elective courses. For what it concerns help, the university provides, our program provides a portal where you can find different names of organizations and associations where previous students did the internship. So you can for sure start to ask those organizations or association if an internship position is available. But for what it concerned my process, I was looking websites regarding internships positions all over. One thing that you have to be very careful about, because I couldn't do my internship because of this, it's how long the internship is, because the internship must be from 10 to 15 weeks, because you take 2 courses before that, 3 courses before that. So if the internship is longer, it could be tricky to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I also chose to do electives, but thinking about the experience of my classmates or classmates that are doing electives, I think it's also good to mention that you can do an internship within Sweden locally, of course, and then you might be thinking it might be helpful to know Swedish, but there's also possibilities where you don't necessarily need to. But you can also think of going somewhere else to do your internship, so that is also a possibility.
All right, thank you very much. And the second question that the two of you can also, I think, give some insight on is, are there exams throughout the year, or is it just the papers that you hand in?
The papers are the exams. And trust me when I say that it's a real exam. And even if you don't do it in person, in a dedicated time and day in university, it's a whole process of understanding which topic you want to write about, narrow it down, do some research about it, and then write academically. And I had here on my desk this course information for this for the course that we are having right now, and so the paper that we are writing right now. And there are some grading criteria, which are reading, language, organization, and formalia, and then knowledge and understanding, and creativity and critical approach. So this all it's every paper is slightly different from one another, so it's never the same. But yes, our exams are structured in this way. I don't know if Nelly, if you have something to add about this.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, yes, our examinations are always pretty much papers, but there's different forms of them. So as I was saying about the culture and arts paper that we were writing, that was really reflections on our course literature. We wrote them like during our course, so it's not really like you find a topic and you write a topic about, I don't know, abortion in the United States or something, but it was a lot more during the course. And then we had a policy brief, for instance, that we had to write. This was a group project, so that was a lot more concrete rather than academic. We had the reports, which kind of was a lot more of an accessible, not necessarily kind of a semi-academic style of writing, so that we could also work with the theory that we learned throughout the program in different ways. So yes, everything is writing, but there's different forms of writing that are possible and that we are testing. And there's also presentations that are sometimes part of the examination, but then it's not the final assignment per se, but it's kind of like a midterm, mid-course kind of assignment. So there's group work, there is discussions in the seminars, and there's your individual paper a lot of times. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I think that answers the question very well. There's one more question on the applications, which a lot of people upvoted, so I'm gonna ask. And so we talked about already that the program has been getting more and more applications every year. But the question is also, how many get accepted? How many people do you have in the program every year?
Emily, I can answer that. So this past year we had just under 400 applications, And, you know, we had on the list 50 students. And the previous year was similar numbers. So it is quite competitive to get in. But the other thing I think to note, so don't let that number of applications put you off, because I think it's also the case, certainly within the European sphere, so people who are applying from various European countries and Sweden, they don't apply just to Linköping, they might apply to several universities. So it's not, the 400 applications doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has us as their absolute first preference. So if you have a desire, do put the application in, but it is still quite a competitive process.
If I can add to that, I think, because there are also questions about requirements before, I think one of the things about our program is that we have a very diverse classroom when we think not only of nationality, but also of background. So I kind of rolled straight out of high school into university, into this master's program, and I have a kind of a humanities background. But Camilla, for instance, has a lot more a background into institutional education. But there's also people that have already experienced working before coming into the program, that are doing a second master's, for instance, that rely a lot on personal experience or volunteer work. So if you think about your chances of getting in, take into consideration, perhaps it's not just your education that counts, but also your experiences outside of education. And yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that in which, you know, you might be valuable for this program, and this program might be valuable for you.
Yes, thank you very much. Just go for it. Another question on the application is, if I applied this year but decide to come the year after, am I allowed to apply twice? I think maybe Claudia, you might have the best.
Yes,
knowledge of this.
there's no problem with applying more than once. We don't defer successful applicants, so you can't defer if you are offered a place, you can't defer it for a year. You need to apply again, but there's no barrier in applying multiple times to the program. That's absolutely fine.
Yes, I think maybe to mention though, if you're a non-EU student, you will have to pay the application fee once again on your second one, but it's no problem to apply twice.
No, that's right. And you just have to be careful then, you know, if you are from outside the Schengen area and you need to pay fees, you pay those fees. There's a deadline and you may not know before the deadline, so you might pay your fees, but you can have them returned. You just need to apply to have the fees returned, and then you can apply again the following year. So that's possible.
Yes, all right. Okay, we have a few more questions, I think, and a little bit more time as well. Here's another question. Is there many non-EU students that got into the program? I think maybe also Camilla and Nelly can answer this. What your classmates, I mean, you talked about it being diverse. What do you?
Yes, we are a very diverse kind of program. Number-wise, probably there are, but it really depends from year to year. Probably in our year there are like a couple more Europeans rather than non-European students, but it really depends, and it's quite balanced, and yeah, it's very diverse. So I remember the first course we had, we read the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, every one of us in their language, and we counted like more or less 27 different languages. So yeah, just to underline the diversity that there is in our class.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, amazing. Okay, I think we'll see. There's not many questions left. But I think I want to ask this as a very last question. And it is it possible to visit LiU and get to know the people and the university better before the start of the academic year?
Yes, probably not exactly the people that are in your class, because it really depends from person to person, also regarding visas and permits, etc. But August is a really good month to get in touch with student associations and student life in general at Linköping University. So I would personally suggest to come during August and join the various activities that the many student associations organize during the months, especially for incoming students. And then I remember for our case that Linköping University Instagram page, some months before the program start, they organized a chat on Instagram for our program. So I would just suggest to keep an eye on social media, so you can maybe access a chat before and just organize with the rest of the class to meet before or the time of arrival, etc.
Anything else to add on this question?
I would just say that just reflecting from a teacher's perspective, I think what I find very impressive is that the EMS students support each other very well. And we always have class representatives for each year, but the student body as a whole really look after each other well. And for example, the second years do a lot of work as a group to support incoming students, to welcome them, to show them the city, but to help them with the program and then throughout the year. So I think for us in EMS and as the teachers and the organisers, it's really important that we have such a dedicated student group to work with. I think that makes it really special for the incoming students, makes it much friendlier and more seamless, both at a personal level, getting to know Sweden, but also academically to understand the program and what the requirements are, and to not worry too much about different hurdles that you face. So that's what I would add.
All right. Thank you very much, you guys. I think that is all the time we have for today. We've been talking for an hour. I've had a lot of information, a lot of questions. It's really nice to see you guys engaged. And yeah, actually, I'm just going to repeat what Camilla said. Just join us on social media, follow us on social media. You can probably find a lot more information there as well, or get in touch with somebody that can help you out as well. So either on Instagram or on Facebook. And then also have a look at our international student blog. I think there's also somebody from the program actually blogging, or they blogged last year. So you can find some input on that as well. And then also listen to our podcast, Fika with Us, which comes out twice a week. Every 2 weeks, this way around, sorry. Every 2 weeks. And yes, so again, thank you very much to Claudia, thank you very much Petronella, and thank you very much Camila, and thanks everybody that has been watching this live, and I hope to see you here sometime.
Yeah, thanks very much, Emily, and thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody, and really hope to see you in North.